I welcome you to the lecture number 2 of the Company Law in the CA Foundation lecture series sponsored by Shri Jayendra Rank Zone. I'm your mentor, Shekhar Gehlot. So we were discussing in earlier lectures, we were discussing about the features of company. Features of a company. So another feature of a company is that company has a perpetual succession. Okay, company has a perpetual successions. Member may die or change, but the company goes on till it is wound up on the ground specified by the act. That means let us have an example. Suppose Reliance Limited was started by Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani. Okay, but Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani expired in year 2002. However, the Reliance still lives on. Reliance still lives on. Okay, and there are so many companies in the world around which are running since last 200 years. So many people have come and gone by, but the Reliance or the company has stayed that way. Okay, the shares of the company may change hands infinitely. Shares may be changing infinitely. Okay, Reliance shares are freely available on share market, and they are being sold and bought every day. One particular share may change hands infinitely, but that does not affect the existence of the company. Since a company is an artificial person created by law, law alone can bring an end to its life. Its existence is not affected by the death or insolvency of its members. Whatever may happen to its members, company will keep going on. Whatever state of affairs company may not be making a profit, it may be running into losses. That is a totally different matter, but definitely company will stay. Nothing will happen to the company until and unless it is wound up. Okay, so suppose now company X has 12 members. Okay, you call the members or shareholders, but company X has totally in total count 12 people. Okay, now what happens that these 12 people are on a plane, and the plane suffers a crash. Okay, all 12 people on board. Now all people now this company X has just 12 members. Okay, you can call it a private company or a very new company. It has just 12 members. 12 people are on a plane and plane suffers a crash. All 12 on board die. Now what will happen to the company? Company lives on. Nothing will happen to the company. Okay, company will stay as it is. What will happen? These 12 members and their legal heirs, they will take on. Okay, the shares held by these 12 members will definitely be transferred to the other legal heirs, their legal heirs. They will carry on or take on from here. So company has a perpetual succession. This is the only advantage. This is one of the highest biggest advantage available to the company, unlike a partnership. Unlike a partnership, in a partnership firm, even if one of the partner dies, the partnership will be gone. Or a proprietorship, when the proprietorship will die, the proprietorship will be dead with the proprietor only. Same is with the case with the partnership, or same is the, but only the company has a perpetual successions. Okay, since the company is an artificial person, because it's an artificial person, it's difficult to kill it. It's created by law, and law only can bring an end to its life. So in order, if you want to kill a company or stop a company or remove the existence of a company, then only process is winding up. Okay, winding up process is there, which is a very detailed process. Only this way you can put a company to an end. Otherwise, company will keep going on perpetually because it has a perpetual existence. Limited liability. Limited liability is one of the key features of the companies. Okay, I must say it is very salutary. If I have to choose one feature which is very important feature of the Company Act out of all the other features, then I'll definitely choose limited liability as a most important feature. Okay, the company has a very limited liability in general. Generally all companies have a limited liability, but still some companies may be there which are limited by the guarantee or have unlimited liability. We'll discuss about them as well, but right now, limited liability. This is one such feature which is very essential for companies to exist. Okay, this is one feature which is very essential for the companies to exist, and I have no shame in saying that if this feature alone, this alone feature is removed, let all other features be there. If this feature will be removed, almost 80% of the companies will go away. We'll not have companies all around. That a company is a vehicle of development, and when we talk about development, we do not mean only economic but social as well. So company is not only doing economic benefit, but it is contributing to society as a whole. Okay, it is a complete wellness, complete welfare package. And in order to have these companies, okay, because company is a overall welfare package, you can understand how much difference this Reliance Jio or how much difference Infosys or Wipro have brought to the lives of the people. That cannot be calculated in numbers. So much is the effect of these companies on the lives of the people. And this all could be possible because we have companies around. And why we have companies around? Because we have a feature called limited liability. A company is limited by its liability. Okay, the liability of a member depends upon the kind of company of which he is a member. We know that company is a separate legal entity which is distinct from its member. Now we all know, we have done that a company has a separate legal entity. Okay, the separate legal entity is limited liability. Both are combined features, both go hand in hand. They both go hand in hand. So let us understand what is a limited liability. Thus, in case of a limited liability company, the debts of a company in totality do not become the debts of shareholders. The liability of members of the company is limited to the extent of the nominal value of share held by them. In no case can shareholders be asked to pay anything more than the unpaid value of their shares. Now let us understand it with examples. What is the liability of shareholders? Okay, suppose X purchases 20 shares of Reliance. X has purchased 20 shares of Reliance, which costed him 2 lakh rupees. Okay, for 2 lakh rupees, he purchased 20 shares of Reliance. Now Reliance has gone bankrupt. Okay. Now when Reliance has gone bankrupt, the value of his shares have also fallen. It has come down to suppose say rupees 20 for 20 shares. This person has lost his money. Okay, he had invested 2 lakh rupees, but he has lost now. They have come down to almost 1 rupees per share, so he has lost all of his 2 lakh rupees. But Reliance has an outstanding means the money it has to pay to the others creditors. It has outstanding of 1,000 crore, or say 10,000 crore rupees. Now these creditors have to take 10,000 crore from the Reliance, and X is a member of the Reliance, but he has a limited liability. His limited liability was only towards the payment of the shares money. He has paid those 2 lakhs rupees, so now he should not be bothered about this 10,000 crore rupees. Now these creditors cannot touch X. Okay, they have a claim over the Reliance. They may take any amount from the Reliance, whatever their outstanding is, but they cannot take even a single penny. They cannot even directly approach this person X, and if they do so, that would be illegal. That would not be legally valid step. Okay, why? Because company has a limited liability, and the liability of the members is only till the amount of the shares they hold. Now suppose shares are partly paid, like we have Tata DVR, which is a partly paid up share. So suppose the shares value is 100 rupees, and you have to pay only 20 rupees right now. Okay, suppose there's a plan of 5 equal installments. 5 equal installments. Okay, and you have paid just one installment right now. Okay, so you are supposed to pay 4 more installments, and meanwhile the Tata company goes bankrupt. Suppose say again 10,000 crore rupees loan on the Tata is not able to fulfill it. Now what will happen? Your liability is only till these next 4 installments. That means you have to just pay another 80 rupees, and you are off. Okay, you are off the field. Now no creditor can touch you over and above this 80 rupees. This is the limited liability owed by one shareholder or one member of the company, and that is why these company come up. This is very outstanding feature. If this feature would not have been there, definitely it would have been a lot difficult for a lot of companies to come up and to survive in this difficult cutthroat competition. In case of a company limited by guarantee, there may be company which is limited by guarantee. The members are liable only to the extent of amount guaranteed by them, and that too only when the company goes into liquidation. Okay, we'll talk about this limited company later on, company limited by guarantee later on when we'll go to this particular company. But right now, limited liability. Generally, all companies, almost, and when I say generally, I mean to say almost more than 90-95% companies are companies with the limited liability. And because of the difference, because of the separation between the shareholder and the company having its own separate legal entity, the debt of the company does not convert to the debt of the shareholders. It remains to the company alone. However, if it is an unlimited company, the liability of its members is unlimited as well. So this is very unfortunate situation. These type of companies also do exist, and they are very risky company. Whenever investing in the company, one must understand the nature of the company as well. Some companies are unlimited company. In that case, liability of the members become unlimited. Suppose now this Reliance would have been unlimited company, then these creditors would have easily chased away X and sold away all his properties, even including his dwelling house, just to recover this 10,000 crore rupees amount. But because mostly companies are limited liability, so there is no such issue at present. Another feature is artificial legal person. Like we have discussed earlier as well, company is not a legal person. The company has Company though has similar rights as an individual or a living person. Companies may even have fundamental rights. Okay, companies may even have fundamental rights. What fundamental right company may have? Company may have a article right to live. Government cannot kill any company it wants to. Government cannot straight away wind up any company it wants to. Company may have right to speech, or company may have right to form association or not to form association, or there may be a religious company, it may have its own religious rights. The company may also have right to equality. Okay, in all the matters, in most of the matters, company can be compared to a citizen of India. Only thing is it cannot vote. Otherwise company has all the rights, almost all the rights available to a citizen of India. But still it is an artificial legal person, though it's a person but artificial legal person. A company is an artificial person as it is created by a process other than natural birth. Okay, it is legal or judicial as it is created by law. We can call it legal person or a judicial person. It is a person since it is clothed with all the rights of an individual, just like why we discussed. It has all the rights of an individual. Whatever right we have, it has right to equality, is right to life, right to association, right to move. It can move its office from one place to another. Okay, just like it can change its name as well. Sometimes we individuals want to our change our name, and we can do so. Similar is the case with the company. So company has all the rights of an individual. That is why it's called artificial legal person. Artificial, why? Because it has not taken birth by the process of a natural birth. Further, the company, being a separate legal entity, can own property, have bank accounts, raise loans, just like any person can do. A person can own a property, legal person like company can also own a property, have bank account, raise loans, incur liabilities, and enter into contracts. Even members can contract with the company, acquire right against it, and incur liability. Okay, it can be, it can sue and be sued in its own name. Company can sue and be sued. X wants to file a case against Reliance. X can file straight away. X can file in the name of, in the name of Reliance only. He does not need to worry about who's the largest shareholder, whether he is Ambani or Adani, whether I should file a case in the name of Ambani because he is 75% owner of the Reliance. No, he can file case straight away against Reliance only because company can sue and be sued in its own name. Similarly, if Reliance wants to sue someone, Reliance can file a case directly in its own name. It can do everything which any natural person can do except be sent to jail, take oath, marry or practice a learned profession. Okay, you cannot send a company to jail definitely, or company cannot take an oath. Company cannot marry, though mergers and splits do happen in the companies, but obviously we cannot call them a marriage or practice a learned profession, like company cannot be an advocate. Okay, company cannot be an advocate, doctor, teacher, etc. Its members maybe, but company cannot be. Hence, it is a legal person in its own sense. As the company is an artificial person, it can act only through some human agency, such as directors. Just like any artificial person, just like a person needs to act, just like we have individual persons, we have our limbs. Okay, we use our hands, senses, and our feet, our organs, we use it to remain alive and to do our all the day-to-day task. Company also does its functions but through some human agency only, that is called directors. Directors are the one which run the company. Directors manage the affairs of the company. The directors cannot control affairs of the company and act as its agency, but they are not the agents of the members of the company. Okay, the directors cannot control the company and act its agents. Okay, the directors do not have a control over the company, they just manage the company. Okay, who has the control of the company? Probably we can say members of the company have a control over the company, but directors do not have a control of the company, they only manage. Okay, whatever happens in the company happens through the vote and members vote. Whatever members say, the company is run in that particular way and directors do that way. Directors also don't act as an agent of the company. Okay, directors are not the agents of the company, they are simply employees. Director can either on their own or through common seal can authenticate its formal acts. Okay, when a company has to act in certain way, then director will use either their own name or the common seal. Why? Because directors manage the affairs of the company. Okay, but directors are not the agents of company, or neither they are the agents of the members of the company. They are simply an employee of the company. Okay, when I say agents, agents has a power to bind the company and okay, agents have a power to bind the company, but directors cannot bind the company. Directors will only act as per the wishes of the company. Company does not function on the wishes of the directors. Directors function as per the wishes of the company. Okay, so in practical life it may be sound, it may sound that directors actually own a company and run the company, but that is what practicality is. But we are talking about artificial legal person. Legally speaking, directors are not the agents of the company and they cannot control affairs of the company or they cannot bind a company. They only act as per the wishes of the company. Whatever company wants to be done, directors do it for the company. It is just like a story of a person and a genie. He has got a genie, now he wants genie to do whatever genie can do for him. Directors can be compared to that genie. Thus, a company is called an artificial legal person. Company has a common seal. Okay, a company has a common seal. A common seal means the seal which is uniform for the company. Okay, uniform seal, it is kept everywhere in all offices. Suppose a company has 20 offices in India, in all 20 offices company will have a common seal, same seal everywhere. Okay, a company being an artificial person is not bestowed with the body of a natural being, therefore it works through the agency of human beings. Common seal is the official signature of the company which is affixed by the officers and employees of the company on its every document. The common seal is a seal used by the corporation as a symbol of its incorporation. Okay, so now a company does not have a human body. Okay, so how does a company sign? A company cannot sign on its own, so a company has a common seal which is affixed by the human being, so that common seal acts as a signature of the company. However, there has been an amendment in 2005 15. The Companies Amendment Act 2015 has made the common seal optional by omitting the words and a common seal from section 9, so as to provide an alternative mode of authorization of the companies who opt not to have a common seal. Now, Companies Act 2015 have done away with this particular mode of operation. Now, common seal is only optional and you do not mandatorily require to have a common seal. Rationale for this amendment is that common seal is seen as a relic of medieval times. Even in the UK, common seal has been made optional since 2006. This amendment provides that documents which need to be authenticated by a common seal will be required to be so done only if the company opts to have a common seal. That means if company wishes to have a common seal, company can have a common seal. Just like we discussed earlier, directors work as per the wishes of the company. If company wishes to have a common seal, it can have a common seal. In case a company does not have a common seal, the authorization shall be made by two directors or by a director and the company secretary, wherever the company has appointed a company secretary. Okay, so all companies are not required to appoint a company secretary. This is a threshold. if any company has particular profit or number of employees, then only it has to appoint a company secretary. Otherwise, two directors will, because every company has minimum two directors other than one person company. Okay, so every company has minimum two directors, so it can have its two directors sign and authenticate the documents. But the practical application, still many companies, almost all companies, still choose to go with the common seal thing. The concept of corporate wheel. Corporate, I may say, legally incorporated. Okay, corporate means something which is incorporated legally. Okay, something born by law. Corporate means something which is born out of the law, not a natural law, natural thing. Wheel, wheel is a separation, or we may say curtain. Okay, curtain, curtain of a curtain or separation between two individuals or two things. Okay, so the concept of corporate wheel. Okay, legally incorporated separation we are talking about here. Okay, legally incorporated separation or a curtain born by law. So the concept of a curtain born by law, also known as the concept of corporate wheel. Legally, it is known as concept of corporate wheel. Corporate wheel refers to a legal concept whereby the company is identified separately from the members of company. Like we just discussed, a company is a separate identity. A company has its own separate identity, and identity of company identity of a company is never mixed with the identity of its members. Members are separate, and a company is altogether totally a separate unit. The term corporate wheel refers to the concept that members of a company are shielded from liability connected to the company actions. Just like we discussed, it is the concept of limited liability. Whatever company will do, okay, whatever a company will do, members of company are shielded from the liability. Okay, members will always be shielded. There will always be a curtain between. Now you understand what is corporate wheel. There will always be a curtain between the company and members. Okay, members will always remain behind the curtain. Company is always in front of the curtain, and there is a curtain between company and members. Those who see company cannot see members. If the company incurs any debts or contravenes any law, the corporate field concept implies that members should not be liable for those errors. In other words, they enjoy corporate insulation. Insulation means prevention. Okay, prevention from something. Thus, the shareholders are protected from the acts of the company. The Salomon versus Salomon and Company Limited. The Salomon versus Salomon Company Limited laid down the foundation of the concept of corporate wheel or independent corporate personality. This is the case from where this concept of corporate wheel came up. This is the case which started it all. What happened in this Salomon versus Salomon? Let's read in the brief. In Salomon versus Salomon and Company, see what happened in this Salomon. I'll just give you a brief before reading it. Salomon was a shoemaker, and he was a very successful one. He was a very successful one. What he did, people said to him that you should grow your business, and for growing up a business, he said, I need funds. So somebody suggested him to set up a company and take funds. So what he did, set up a company. The name was Salomon and Company Limited. This is the company he set up for shoe manufacturing. Okay, so what happened when he started this company? He gave 7,000 pounds, 7,000 pounds as loan to company by agreement, and became a secured creditor. Okay, and became a secured creditor. Now let us read the case brief. In Salomon Company, in this case, one Salomon incorporated a company named Salomon and Company Limited with 7 subscribers consisting of himself, his wife, 4 sons, and 1 daughter. So, what happened when he started a company? What was the composition of his company? He himself, his wife, 4 of his sons, and 1 daughter. Okay, 7 members were there, all within the same family. This company took over the personal business assets of Solomon. For this was the amount for which Solomon sold his business to his company, which was run by his family only. And in turn, Solomon took 20,000 shares. Solomon was allotted 20,000 shares for this amount. Okay, company legally purchased the business of Solomon from him, and Solomon took 20,000 shares of £1 each. £1 each. Okay, debentures worth rupees 10,000. Debentures worth rupees 10,000 of the company, which charge on the company's assets, and the balance in cash. Okay, whatever was left, he took in cash. Okay, so it should be 10,000 here. Debenture is a secured loan. Okay, a secured loan is one where some property or asset is mortgaged with creditor. Okay, a secured loan is a loan where some property or asset is mortgaged with creditor. You will be able to understand it more nicely when we talk about. You must have seen the advertisement of Muthoot Gold Loan. Okay, Muthoot Gold Loan. In this gold loan, Muthoot Gold Loan Finance, what will happen? You will take your gold and you will deposit the gold. Deposit the gold and take the cash. Okay, deposit the gold and take the cash, and when you will pay back this cash or the loan, then you can take your gold back. In case you are not able to pay this cash, this Muthoot Gold will sell your gold. It will sell your gold loan. Okay, it will sell your gold and retrieve its cash. This is called secured loan. Okay, Muthoot Gold Loan is giving secured loan. Sometimes there is a mortgage as well, in which property is kept as security. Property papers are kept with the financier, and he will finance you and he will keep the property. Tomorrow, if you are not able to repay the cash, he will sell the property. This is called debenture or bond. Debenture or a bond is a secured loan where some property is always returned to you of the company, which charge on the company's assets and balance in cash. His wife, daughter, and 4 sons took up 1 share each. Okay, they took up one share each, so you can understand how many shares were there. Okay, he took 20,000 shares, 7 members, and other 6 members took one share each. That means he is holding 99.99% shares. Okay, he became the owner, virtually he is the owner of the company. Subsequently, the company went into liquidation. Company liquidation means company became bankrupt. Bankrupt means you are not able to repay loan. Okay, you are not able to repay your loan, you have become bankrupt. Okay, or you have liquidated yourself, you have become liquidated due to general trade depression. The unsecured creditors to the tune of £7,000 contended that Solomon could not be treated as a secured creditor of the company in respect of the debentures held by him. He held the debentures for £10,000 as he was the managing director of a one-man company. They said this is a kind of one-man company only. He is having 20,000 shares out of some 20,006 shares only, which was not different from Solomon, and the clock of company was mere sham and fraud. Clock means cloth. Clock means cloth. Cloth of company was a mere sham and a fraud. Okay, so they say ultimately company went into liquidation. Company was sold. Okay, after selling all the property of the company, what was left? Only 7,000 pounds were left after selling of the company. Okay, and creditors are yet to be paid. But other creditors are unsecured creditors. These creditors, the other creditors, other than Solomon, all the creditors are unsecured. Okay, so what happens when a company goes for liquidation or a company is wound up? Then first payment is made to a secured creditor. First payment is made to a secured creditor, and whatever is left is unsecured paid to unsecured creditors. Okay, so in this company he held the debenture, he held a secured creditor, secured loan of £10,000, and what was left was only £7,000. Okay, so these unsecured creditors knew that as per the company law, first payment shall be made to the Solomon, who has a loan of £10,000, and company has only 7,000 rupees only. So ultimately, nothing will come out of them. Even this Solomon's loan will not be fully repaid by the company after selling all of its assets. So they went to the court. They said this is a sham committed by the Solomon, as he is holding 99.99% shares of the company, and he is the one who should be made responsible. Okay, so this 7,000 rupees should be distributed among us. Okay, and he should not be treated as a secured creditor. He should be treated as unsecured creditor only. But rejecting the contention of the unsecured creditors, what the court held is this: the company is at law a different person altogether from the subscribers to the memorandum. Subscriber to the memorandum. What is memorandum? We'll do later. And though it may be that after incorporation the business is precisely the same as it was before, and the same persons are managers, and the same hands receive the profit, the company is not in law the agent of subscribers or trustees for them. The company is not the agent, or they are not the agents of the company, though everything may remain same. In this case, nothing has changed. Solomon was the shoe manufacturer, now he is only the shoe manufacturer. 20,000 shares is holding. Whatever profit company is getting is again going to the Solomon. Earlier also the same thing was Solomon. But the company is not in law the agent of the subscribers or trustees for them, nor are the subscribers as members liable in any shape or form, except to the extent and in manner provided by the Act. Except to the extent. Extent is limited liability, whatever shares they held. Thus, in this case, clearly established that company has its own existence, and as a result, a shareholder cannot be held liable for the acts of the company, even though he holds virtually the entire share capital. The whole law of the corporation is in fact based on this theory of the separate corporate entity. So now we are done with the features of the corporate entity. Now there is a question. Now there may arise a question whether this wheel of corporate personality can even be lifted or pierced. Now, suppose let us take the case of Solomon only. Now we understand that Solomon was actually committing a fraud. Okay, he was not running the business generally, he was running the business for fraud. Now, still, unsecured creditors have suffered a lot of harm and a lot of business loss, monetary loss as well. Now, can there be instances in which this corporate wheel could be lifted? Okay, before going into this question, one should first try to understand the meaning of the phrase lifting the wheel. Okay, lifting the wheel literally means lifting the curtains. Curtains have been lifted. Okay, it means looking behind the company. We just discussed that there is company, then there is a curtain, then there are members. So when you are lifting the veil, okay, when you are lifting the veil, you are looking behind the company. And when you look behind the company, when the curtain is not there, what you will see is disregarding the corporate entity and paying regard instead to the realities behind the legal facade. Facade means legal creation, legal structure. Okay, you are trying to look behind this legal facade. Legal facade is company. You are trying to look behind the company, where the courts ignore the company and concern themselves directly with the members or manager. In this case, courts ignore the company and concern themselves directly with the members of the company or the managers. The corporate wheel may be said to have been lifted. In this case, we can say corporate wheel has been lifted, and court can very well do so. However, it can only be in appropriate circumstances. The courts are willing to lift the corporate wheel, and that too when question of control are involved rather than merely a question of ownership. Okay, question of control versus question of ownership, it's a sea change. Okay, so only in appropriate circumstances, and let me put it nicely here, precisely, only in exceptional cases. The corporate wheel of a normally functioning company will never be pierced by court, whatever may be the case. Company may have suffered huge losses, may have gone bankrupt, may not be able to pay back the loans. But if company is functioning as per the law, courts will never ever pierce the corporate wheel. But only in exceptional cases. What are those exceptional cases? First situation may be to determine the enemy character of the to determine the character of the company, i.e. to find out whether company is enemy or a friend. Okay, to determine whether this company is enemy or a friend. A company, just like in any other person, be a friend or enemy as well. Okay, company though does not have body of flesh and blood like us, but still it is a legal person, and legal person can be enemy or a friend. When we are talking about enemy or a friend, we are talking about enemy or friend country. Okay, in the law relating to trading with the enemy, where the test of control is adopted, the leading case in this point is Daimler Company Limited versus Continental Tire and Rubber Company. If the public interest is not likely to be in jeopardy, the court may not be willing to crack the corporate shell, but it may rend the wheel for ascertaining whether a company is an enemy. It is true that unlike a natural person, a company does not have mind or conscience, therefore it cannot be a friend or foe. It may, however, be characterized as an enemy company if its affairs are under the control of people of an enemy country. For this purpose, the court may examine the character of the persons who are really at the helm of affairs of the company. Okay, so it says just because the company is not a real person like we and you, like an individual, but still it can be managed by the person who belong to the enemy country. So in that case, to understand that whether the owners or enemy belong to enemy country, the court may lift the corporate wheel. Now I will read out this case from where this concept started, and it will become very clear to you what we are discussing here. This is the case, a salutary case of the Daimler Company versus Continental Tire and Rubber Company. This Daimler Company is still they are manufacturing Mercedes-Benz. You must have seen those cars, those luxury cars. This Daimler Company owns them, owns the brand. What happened in this case? Daimler used to manufacture Mercedes-Benz. They would purchase, sell tires to Continental. Okay, what will happen? They will purchase and sell tires to the Continental Tire Company. Okay, because they were manufacturing Mercedes Benz, they would Daimler used to manufacture Mercedes Benz. They would sell tires to the Continental. They would not purchase tires. They would sell tires to the Continental company. Tires payment was on credit basis. Credit basis means pay later. What happened? The Second World War began. Okay, this Daimler was a German company. Incorporated in England. Though it was incorporated in England, but company's control was in German hand. The profit of the company was going to the Germany, and this Continental company was an English company. It was an England company or English company, say. Okay. The Continental had purchased tires but refused to pay to Daimler and said that contracts with enemies at the times of war are not enforceable. So Continental used to make the payment for the tires on the credit basis. Second World War began. England and Germany became enemies. Now, okay, we all know England and Germany were at the different fronts, enemy fronts at the Second World War. Now, Continental refused to make the payment to the Daimler, and Daimler took the Continental to the court. Okay, and for the enforcement of the contract, Continental took the plea that contract with the enemies at times of war are not enforceable. Just because you are at our war, we both countries are at war right now, so you are our enemy and we will not enforce that contract, we will not pay you back. Daimler said that it is English company because they were incorporated in England. Daimler said we are English company, we are incorporated in England and not German. Court pierced the corporate wheel to verify whether it is English company or the German company. Court found out that it is actually German company. The control is with the German people. Court held that once a war begins, then the best interest is the welfare of the company, but national interest is supreme. Okay, the national interest is supreme. If the company makes payment to Daimler, the English funds will be used against the English for war by the Germany. Thus, in national interest, the corporate wheel could be lifted. What the court said, I'll just summarize it up to you. Court said if England company, England company would make payment, say 100 crore to Daimler, which is English company on papers, but owned or say controlled by Germans. Okay, the court said if England company would make payment to Daimler for 100 crore rupees, though this company is English, legally on the papers this company appears to be English company, we cannot characterize this company as an enemy company. Continental said that Daimler is the enemy company, and Daimler said that I am incorporated in England, so I am not an enemy country. My character is English, you just look at me. You They asked the court not to look at the shareholders. Shareholders may be German, but the court said if I look at the shareholders, this company is owned by the Germans. So we English people will pay 100 crore to German people, which 100 crore will again be used in war by Germany to kill English people. So this will be against the national interest, and in order to identify the enemy character of the company, this corporate wheel have to be lifted. That is why this corporate wheel lifted, and this is one such instance in which corporate wheel could be lifted. Second is to protect the revenue. Protect the revenue or tax. Revenue means tax which is generated by the government. In certain matters concerning the law of taxes, duties, and stamps, particularly where question of controlling interest is an issue, in these cases, revenue, in these cases, corporate wheel could be lifted. We'll read the case law. In the S. Bernstein versus Commissioner of Inland Review, it was held that where a corporate entity is used to evade or circumvent tax, the court can disregard the corporate entity. This is a salutary law. It was held that court can disregard the corporate entity. This is the British law from where this all started. Okay, but we have our own Indian case, so I'll discuss the Indian case and its facts in detail. That is the case of Sir Dinshaw Banerjee Petit. Okay, this is the name of a person, Sir Dinshaw Banerjee Petit. This case dates back to time when India was not an independent country; it was under the control of English. So English people had a habit of conferring people with this knighthood, calling them Sir. So this person was a knight. He was referred as Sir Dinshaw Banerjee Petit. What happened in this case? He had made many investments. Okay, these are the facts in the brief. Okay, so Dinshaw Banerjee Petit had made various investments. He was super rich. Dividends were taxable. Dividends were taxable. So what he did, he set up four companies and transferred all to four companies. Okay, so what this person did, that he was super rich. He had made so many investments and money was coming back. He was super rich. So and the dividends which he was receiving were being taxed. So he was fed up with this taxation system. So what he did, in order to evade taxes, he set up four companies and transferred all to four companies. He set up four companies, say company A, B, C, D, and transferred all money equally to these companies. These companies were within taxable exemption slab, and 10 companies gave unsecured loans to Dinshaw. Taxation exemption slab. There was a slab that time, like now, like we have individual taxation exemption slab. So if somebody is earning less than rupees 2.5 lakh per year, he need not pay a tax. Suppose that time tax slab was below 1 lakh. So any company with an income of less than 1 lakh rupees was exempted to pay taxes. What Dinshaw did, Dinshaw kept arranged money in all those four companies such a manner that every company has 90,000. Okay, so he gave 90,000, 90,000, 90,000, 90,000 to company A, company B, company C, and company D. Now these all company, because they are coming within the tax exemption slab, they are not entitled to pay any taxes. Okay, then what happened? These company A, B, C, D, these made loans of rupees 89,000. Okay, these companies, every company just kept 1000 rupees with them and made a loan of rupees 89,000 each to Dinsha Banerjee Patel. Okay, now Dinsha has 3 lakh 20,000 in his bank. Okay, and when the income tax department asked him that you pay a tax on this 3 lakh 20,000 rupees, Dinsha said that I took it on loan. So when you take something on loan, it never becomes your income, it becomes your liability. And income tax is paid on income and never paid on liability. Okay, so when you have incurred a liability, that means he has taken it on a loan and he has to pay it back. So he has not received any profit, so he has to pay it back, and that means it is his liability and he should not be taxed on the liability. He said that this is the borrowings, thus no one okay, and company gave unsecured loans. Dinsha did not return loans. Okay, Dinsha did not return this loan to the company. Company neither never bothered to take the loan back from the Dinsha. So company did not pay tax on this 89,000 rupees. Why? Because the company was less than the taxable slab of 91 lakh rupees. Okay, then Dinsha never paid the tax. Why? Because Dinsha said I have taken a loan from the company and he never repaid it. So Dinsha kept all the money. Okay, without paying a tax upon it. And in that case, the court looked into the affairs of the company. Court found out that since companies were not doing any relevant business, these companies were found to be not doing any business at all other than being tax evading vehicles, then corporate will be lifted. Okay, bad debts were not taken
It's
into
8
account by
o'clock.
the court. Court held that these companies are not actual companies, they are merely sham, they are merely vehicles for evading the tax, and Dinsha is effectively using the provision of law in order to evade the taxes. So this particular amount was took as an income and he was charged as an income tax by lifting corporate veil. Okay, another case may be to avoid a legal obligation, where it was found that the sole purpose of the formation of the company was to use it as a device to reduce the amount to be paid by the way of bonus to workmen. The Supreme Court upheld the piercing of the veil to look at the real transaction. Okay, so now what is happening, to understand the enemy character, the corporate veil is being lifted, and when someone is using this for the tax evasion, corporate veil will be lifted. Just today only in the recent earlier slides we discussed a case of Bacha F. Guzdar. We discussed the case of Bacha F. Guzdar, and that can also be placed in this bracket only because Bacha F. Guzdar also did certain transaction like this only, and she tried to evade taxes, and her corporate veil was also lifted and she was found taxable. To avoid a legal obligation, where it was found that the sole purpose for the formation of the company was to use it as a device to reduce, okay, the workmen employed in the Associated Rubber Industries Limited, Bhavnagar is the place where this industry was limited, versus the Associated Rubber Industries Limited, Bhavnagar. This case is usually known as workmen of Associated Rubber Industries versus Associated Rubber Industries. Okay, what happened in this case? Let's read the facts of this case. The facts of this case are that A Limited is Associated Rubber Limited in short form. Associated Rubber Limited, AR Limited, purchased shares of B Limited, okay, by investing a sum of rupees so and so. The dividend in respect of these shares was shown in the profit and loss account of the company year after year. It was taken into the account of purpose of calculating the bonus payable to the workmen of the company. Sometime in 1968, the company transferred the shares of B Limited to C Limited, a subsidiary wholly owned by it. Thus, the dividend income did not find place in the profit and loss account of A Limited, with the result that surplus available for the purpose of payment of bonus to the workmen got reduced. Here, the company created a subsidiary and transferred it to its investment holdings in a bid to reduce its liability to pay bonus to its workers. Thus, the Supreme Court brushed aside the separate existence of subsidiary company. The new company so formed had no assets of its own except those transferred to it by the principal company, with no business or income of its own except receiving dividends from the shares transferred to it by the principal company, and serving no purpose except to reduce the gross profit of the principal company so as to reduce the amount paid on the bonus. Okay, so this is the brief summary. We'll just understand it by the illustration here. AR company. Now this AR company had investment, say 100 crore rupees in B Limited. Okay, and B Limited was working nicely and it was getting profit of rupees, suppose say 30 crore on this 100 crore. Okay, it was getting profit of this 30 crore on this 100 crore rupees. So what happened on this 100 crore rupees? So what happened, earlier this company used to keep all the profit to itself, but later labor laws came up. Labor laws came up. Earlier there were no laws when all this scenario was happening. This 30 crore AR company was keeping and the management was enjoying the profit. But later on labor laws came up in the India, and some labor laws were like company having profit must pay bonus to workmen and also provide for provident fund, etc. So the new law came up, and the new law say that company having a profit must pay bonus. It must mandatorily pay bonus to the workmen and also provide provident funds, etc. payments of provident funds gratuity to the workers with this. So now this company thought that I'll have to share this 30 crore rupees with as a bonus with the workmen, as well as I'll have to make the payment to the provident fund, etc. So what she did, this company set up another company and transferred these shares held in this investment made in company B. Transferred the shares held in company B to C. Okay, now this set up another company named C. They set up another company named C and transferred their share AR company shares to C, which they held in B. So now what happened? Now 30 crore rupees sent directly to C. 30 crore rupees was sent directly to C, and AR showed no profit. AR showed no profit in its balance sheet. Why? Because money went to the C. This money did not come to AR company, and then they said that we will not pay any bonus or any provident fund to the employees because we do not have any profit. Now this profit goes to the company C. This company C had no workmen at all, so this company could keep all the profit because this company was not having any employment, any business, any real business or all. So it was not having any even single workman. So this company was not supposed to pay anything to the its workmen because it did not have workmen, and AR did not pay because it said we do not have the profit. Okay, so the workmen got to know of this sham and they went to the Supreme Court of India. Supreme Court in 1968 lifted the corporate veil and held that in cases when the company is used as a vehicle of taking away the corporate benefit or the reducing the labor benefit provided by the law, then the corporate veil could be lifted. formation of subsidiaries to act as its agents. A company may sometimes be regarded as an agent or trustee of its members or another company and may therefore be deemed to have lost its individuality in favor of its principal. Here, the principal will be held liable for the acts of its company. We are saying simply it says a company may sometimes be regarded as an agent or trustee of its members. Like when we lift the corporate wheel, we see we can hold company as an agent of its members. Usually company is not an agent of its members because company acts on its own, but now we can see the company is acting as per its members or of another company. A company may have other company as its main member also, okay, and therefore be deemed to have lost individuality in favor of its principal is the one company. Now let us understand it by the example. Usually Mukesh Ambani is largest shareholder in Reliance. Okay, he is an individual. So when we lift the corporate wheel, suppose the corporate wheel of the Reliance is lifted, we will deal directly with the Mukesh Ambani and not with the Reliance. Similarly, there may be a company, suppose Reliance only, Reliance largest shareholder is another company, say Tata. Tata is the largest shareholder of the Reliance. It may happen. So many companies have purchased shares of different companies. So in this case, when we lift the corporate wheel, we will deal with the Tata because now largest shareholder is Tata. So a company can be the largest shareholder of another company as well. Okay. So in this case, when we lift the corporate wheel, this Tata becomes the principal. Here Mukesh Ambani is the principal. Principal means a person on whose guidance things are happening, and this is the case Merchandise Transport Limited versus British Transport Commission. A transport company wanted to obtain licenses for its vehicles but could not do so if applied in its own name. It therefore formed a subsidiary company and the application for license was made in the name of subsidiary. See, this transport company was blacklisted. This Merchandise Transport Company, Transport Limited, was blacklisted for violation of laws. So the British Transport Commission was not providing any new license to this company, and all the old standing licenses were revoked. So they wanted licenses for their vehicle, but they could not have got that in their own name. So what they did, it therefore formed a subsidiary company. They formed this MTL, Merchandise Transport Limited, formed X Transport as a subsidiary company and applied for licenses in the name of X Transport, and they got it. The vehicles were to be transferred to the subsidiary company. Held, the parent and the subsidiary one commercial unit, and the application for licenses were rejected. Okay, so in this case, court said that just because subsidiary this subsidiary has been made set up for only sole purpose for evasion of the law. The law has barred you or blacklisted you for violation of the laws, and you cannot get any fresh license. Therefore you cannot just start a new company and take the licenses in its name and carry on the work without going through the penalty imposed by the law. Okay, here they have formed a subsidiary to act as its agents. So in this case, corporate wheel could be lifted. Company formed for fraud, improper conduct, or to defeat law. Sometimes a company is formed for defeating the purpose of the law, like we just discussed ahead above. Okay, where the device of the incorporation is adopted for some illegal and improper purpose, example to defeat or circumvent law, to defraud creditors, or to avoid legal obligations. In these cases, corporate wheel will be lifted. Guilford Motor versus Horn. This Guilford Motor versus Horn is a classic case on particular aspect of lifting the corporate wheel when you are using the company for illegal parts, illegal transactions. Here Horn took the job. Okay, Horn took the job. There was no non-compete clause, as you would there was non-compete clause. non-compete clause. This non-compete clause means employee shall not set up competitive business. Okay, employee shall not set up a competitive business. Why employee shall not set up a competitive business? We'll discuss. When Horn took the job, there was non-compete clause. Horn is a person. He took the job with the Guilford Motors company. Okay, he took the job. There was non-compete clause, as he would get access to various business-specific trade secrets and could be manipulated. Why? Because when he'll work with the Guilford Motor inside their company, then he'll get access to various client profile and the business models this Guilford Motor Company was forming, and the patents Guilford Motor Company may be having in the machines and the secrets they are using, which nobody else knows. And when he acquires this information from the company and he goes and sets up his own company, then this is against the public interest. Then there can be a non-compete clause. So there was a non-compete clause because there were business secrets which Horn would become aware, and later he could manipulate them. The Horn, what he did later on, he left the job after 2-3 years and started a new company. He started a new company. Why? Because there was a non-compete clause in the name of Horn. So Horn independently could not have set up the business because he was barred by this clause. So what he did, he started a new company in order to avoid the non-compete clause. The defense taken by Horn that he was a shareholder, but it was the company which was doing so. Court held that the sole purpose was to commit the breach of contract and nothing else. Veil was lifted. It's a landmark case. So what he did, Horn set up a different company and used the secret learned from Guilford in competition against Guilford. When Guilford Motor reached to the court and said that this person was barred by non-compete clause and he could not have set up a competition business to us and he should pay us a fine, then what stand Horn took? Horn said that I am merely a shareholder. Horn merely a shareholder, and whatever business is happening the company is doing, and there was no non-compete clause with between this company, new company, and Guilford Motor. So Guilford Motor cannot file case against this company and for me as well, because I am only an employee. I am only merely a shareholder, nothing else, or an employee. The court said that you have committed the breach of the contract because the sole purpose of the company formed was to commit fraud or to commit improper conduct and to defeat the purpose of law. Similar is the case of PNB versus SP Chan, that is Punjab National Bank versus SP Chan. What SP Chan was, SP Chan wanted to invest in share market. So when you invest in share market is highly volatile. Money may go up and down within single day. Okay. So banks never give loan to be used in share market, as it is highly volatile. As share markets are highly volatile and you may lose your money and then bank may not be able to recover the loan. So banks never give you loan for investing in the for sole purpose of investing in the share market. What it did, SP Jain set up a new company and took loan on pretext of running a company and diverted funds to himself to invest in the share market. Okay, then he set up a new company in the name of investing in share market and diverted funds to himself and invested in the share market and suffered loss. Okay, when the company Then company became bankrupt and the bank reached to the company for the repayment of the loan. Company could not repay the loan. They ultimately went to the SPJ and SPJ said that I am just a shareholder. There's a corporate we. How can you ask the money from me? The court held that the fraud done by company would fall squarely upon SP Chan as he was held liable after lifting corporate fee. Okay, this cannot be done. So court said what SP Chan said. SP Chan said I have taken the money from the company. I am liable to the company. Why bank is approaching me? And the company was not inclined to take back money from the SP Chan. Why? Because SP Chan was the owner of the company. So in that case, his corporate wheel was lifted. Similar is the case of Shantanu Ray versus Union of India. Shantanu Ray had a factory used to manufacture good. Excise duty was applicable. When he used to manufacture goods and he used to sell them in the market, then he is supposed to pay some excise duty, which every trader has to or manufacturer has to pay. There was a provision that if you export goods, there would be no excise. So government tries to give boost to the traders who are exporting to the other countries because it brings dollars in the country and it hires the reputation of the country. So when you are exporting, you are usually given excise benefits. Okay. So Shantanu made fraud records of manufacture and export and evaded tax duty, excise duty. So what he did, he made fraudulent transactions, sham transactions, and claimed excise duty. Okay. So what he did, suppose he said I indulged in trade of 100 crore rupees is of export and paid 12 crore as excise duty. So what will happen in this case now, because he is exporting, so excise duty will be paid back. Government paid back 12 crore to Shantanu. But it was later on found out that whatever he had done nothing. He had made sham papers of these 10 crore rupees, 100 crore rupees and claimed 12 crore rupees from the government back. So government had suffered a loss of 12 crore rupees. When the government reached to the Shantanu to claim this 12 crore rupees back, Shantanu said, you take it from the company. Me and my company are different. Okay, you take it from the company. Company had no money at all. So the government went to the court and it was held. The company was Shantanu was held accountable. He pleaded that company was liable and not Shantanu himself. The court held that company is a legal fiction and has no brain. Then if there is a fraud, the main brain is the directors and board of directors. Thus liability was put upon Shantanu. Same is the case with Vijay Mallya Sahara case. In Vijay Mallya case also, he is being held liable as he was the main director or the main executive chairman who committed the fraud. Now Vijay Mallya says the company has fallen, what do I do? But the court says no, we will lift the corporate veil and we will look at your actions. Sahara case, Subrata Roy Sahara is also under same kind of predicament with the law. Same is the case with Raju Ramalingam who committed a Satyam scam. He also said that company failed, company committed the scam. Why are you holding me liable? It was found that because he was the chief executive director, so he deliberately committed this fraud and corporate fee has to be lifted.